Hi everybody and welcome to OBS Obsessed. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show we're going to be talking all about the Move plugin. So it's a really epic, cool little plugin that we can install into OBS and do all kinds of fun things with. So we're going to be exploring that today. But we are going out live to all the various places, so let me know in the chat where you might be watching from. And if you have any experience with this magical plugin. So I guess just in case you know this is your first time here, we probably should talk about what OBS Studio is first of all. So let's press a couple of buttons here. This is OBS Studio. This is available from obsproject.com. This is free and open source software for Windows, Mac, and Linux that will let you record video locally to your computer. It'll let you stream, and it'll also help you change how you actually show up on webcam. But we do have this magical plugin, which we're going to be talking about today. And I have kind of spoken about this previously, but I really do love it, and I think we need to talk about it. And really interestingly, like 4 hours before I was going to go live today, I noticed there was a social media update saying that it had been updated. So it's fresh and new and exciting. So we're going to be checking out that in a second. But before we do that, let's check out the comments. Hello to Business Growth Ready, who's saying greetings all, and it's midnight in Birmingham. So I'm sorry if I'm cutting into your sleep time. I know we have a few friends in Europe that tune in, and I love you for it, but I hope I'm not upsetting your sleep too much. But let's check out this magical plugin that we're looking at today. So this is from Exeltro, who does amazing things for the OBS community and has all of the plugins. In fact, if you click on his username, it's going to prompt me to actually log in if I do that. But he's, if you search for this, in fact, maybe this one will be better. Let me try this. No, I've got to log in for that as well. All right, let's not worry about logging in, but he's got so many different plugins out there. They're all really epic. Some of them are really super niche. But this one in particular is a lot of fun. So I guess, first of all, if you are new to working with plugins, what you will need to do is head over to OBS Project, check out the forum, and then there's an entire section called plugins, or alternatively, you can just search for Move. I think I put the link to this one in the video description, depending on where you're watching this. But if we click on this magical download button, which is sort of behind my head there, we have all these different options. So we've got an installer for Windows, which is probably the safest, the easiest bet for Windows users. We've got a Windows zip file as well. We've got Linux and we've got Mac OS there as well. For these ones, there's a really good chance you'll need to copy out the files from the zip file into OBS. It's not massively difficult, but you do need to concentrate while you're doing that as well. So I'm just gonna put this up for a second because it's blowing my mind a little bit. But Business Growth Ready writes, await coding in SMTP mailing script for websites. Good stuff. And I love how nerdy the audience is for this show. It's brilliant. All right, so once we've downloaded this and installed it, there's a whole bunch of different things that we can do with this. And the instructions here actually give you more information if you want to work with this. But I guess first of all, probably the simplest way of working with this, and I'm just going to go to my portable version of OBS over here, is that we have this brilliant thing called a transition. And I don't know that I can see my transitions doc, so maybe it's right in front of me and I'm blind, but let me just see if I can find it from the list. Scene transitions, we'll click that one on. I might even just move this over here, if I can, if it'll let me. All right, so let's dock it over on the side. So once you've got installed this plugin, we can actually use the Move plugin as a scene transition, which is really cool in and of itself. But we also have the ability to set up a bunch of different filters. So we're going to be looking at all of those things today. But essentially, if you, by default in OBS, we've got the fade and the cut as our basic transitions. But if you do come to this plus sign in the scene transition dock, you'll have the ability to add more of these in. And, I've done an entire show on transitions. So, if you want to see what the Doom one looks like, for example, you can definitely check that out. But I'm going to go to Move. And again, we could give this a more exciting title if we wanted to, but I'm going to leave it as Move by default. And we've got a whole bunch of options here. To be honest, I don't even look at these. But if you're a little bored and you want something to do, you can play with these because they've got all different kinds of options about things appearing and disappearing. But to be honest, the defaults are perfectly fine for me. So I'm just going to roll with those. And let's check in with the comments for a second. Americo says, "Hey John, I too appreciate listeners who join from late night time zones, unless we're the cure to their insomnia." There is that. Yes, that's always an option. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in some things into my scene. I've already got this color source, which will match my background. And hello to Ernesto as well, who's joining us. Great to have your company. And for the life of me, I still don't know why it periodically cuts off the usernames there. I'm going to have to figure that out. That's a project for another time. But anyway, so we've created our scene transition for move. We can adjust the time if we want to. But what we really need to do is actually have some things here that we can move around. So I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm using my one and only camera. So I'm going to go and add in my video capture device. And this is where we'd give this a name like camera. And I'd normally select my Camlink 4K, but it's already in use with the other version. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use the virtual camera. And that'll bring in another version of me. Again, if you had audio coming in with this as well, you could wrangle that there, but I don't, so it doesn't really matter to me. So what we've got here is we've got the camera, we've got the color source. You can't see the color source underneath this at the moment, but I'll show you how that works in a second. I'm going to bring in an image. And I'm going to say, show, I'm just going to call it show topic. All I'm going to do, and I'm just going to find this really quickly on the other screen, is I'm going to find the artwork for today's show of OBS Obsessed about the Move plugin, which is one over here. And we've got this here. It's obscuring everything. It's filling the whole frame, which is something we may or may not want to do. But let's just imagine that this is our starting point. We've got this here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to actually right click on my scene. I'm going to duplicate this. And again, in a perfect world, I'd give this a more meaningful name, but for the moment, let's just call it scene 2. That's totally fine. And we've got all the same elements in both of these two scenes. But what I want to do is I kind of want to rearrange some of this stuff. So first of all, let's actually make the show topic a little bit smaller. Again, if I was using my proper version of the camera, I would have my real green screen here and I could do all kinds of wonderful things. But because I don't, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to actually move my camera off to the side a little bit. Again, you'll see that background color is still filling in because of the color source that's there. I could potentially, move this around. I could resize this. I could do whatever I want. But now, in fact, I'm going to go back to just a fade for a second. We're going to go back to the first scene. And let's change back to our move. And I want you to see what happens when I press this, when I go to the second scene. So I click the scene. And you'll see that those things are actually... they start in one position, they end in the second position, but the thing that the Move plugin is doing, it's doing all the calculations as to, how to animate those things, where to move them from. And the great thing about the Move plugin in particular is that the computer will do all the math. You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to know how many pixels or, the distance of these things. But the other thing we can do too is maybe that was just a little bit too fast. Maybe I want to increase the duration from 300 milliseconds to 10, 100 milliseconds. So if I click on that now and I go back to this scene, you'll see that's a little bit slower. So we can do that as well. But the great thing about this is we can literally just keep cloning this. We can keep cloning our scene. We can keep moving things around. And let's just imagine that maybe we had some text at the bottom of our screen. So I will go in and what I might do, I'll add a color source in first and I'll say banner. This could be any color. I'm literally just going to pick a black. Let's adjust the width is great, but let's make the height maybe, I don't know, not 400. Let's say 200. Okay, let me move that to the bottom of the screen. And another thing that can be really useful to know in OBS is if we right click in here into our canvas, and I've got to remember what this one is called, and I'm sure Saeed would know if he was here, but I don't think he's around today. So if I right click, preview scaling is what I'm looking for. So scale to window or canvas. The great thing about switching to canvas, it'll zoom in, but if I hold down my control key, no, that's not doing anything. Let's try that again. Scale to window. Okay, preview scaling, canvas. Normally, I would be able to scroll in and out of this area, but it's not playing nicely for me. Let me just see if I can move some stuff around. I mean, I certainly have this scroll bar, so I can sort of go in here. That is really odd. That never happens. But of course it happens in a live show, but that's just what life is. Joyful. All right. And I do notice Ernesto mentioned that he's coming to us from the past because it's technically still Friday in his part of the world. I did say your name, Saeed. That's so funny that you're out there lurking. So Saeed writes, did someone say my name? I did indeed. So what I'm wondering, and maybe I'm just having a moment here, but what I want to do is I want to go to preview scaling, go to the canvas, and zoom in and out. But it's not giving me that option. Do I need to? Maybe I need to be on window. No. I don't know what's going on there. Hold the space key and scroll. Okay, let's try that. Canvas. There we go. Okay, it's the space key. It's not control. All right. Thank you, Saeed. I'm so glad you're here. I'm always a little bit thrown when you're not here. But not that you have to be here, mind you. But yeah, we've got that there. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to drag this out, and I'm just holding down the shift key and the down cursor arrow with that banner selected just to move it off the screen. I'm going to go to my scene 2, and you'll see. I think we might have even had a preview there of it disappearing. Although, yeah, okay, that's interesting. All right, so what I want to do is I actually want to bring this back into scene 2. So I'm going to go and grab my my color source. We'll go add existing and we'll select banner. And I'm going to just keep moving between scenes when it's not really what I intend to do. What I want to do is I want to select my banner. Let's move it all the way down. And there are easy ways of doing this, but I'm just going to roll with that one now. So we start here. It's off the canvas. We click here and it brings it in. And I might even, like, just for our purposes, I might even just move myself up in this frame a little bit now that I've got a little bit of extra space. So let's go back to here. And also I'm going to add in some text. So I will add a new source and I will go to text GDI plus, and I will say, I'm just going to call it johnlacey.com. And I'll say johnlacey.com. And, you know, maybe in a perfect world, I would spend a bit of time thinking about the fonts and the colors and all the rest. I'm not going to worry about that too much today. But again, let's move this so it's off the screen, off our canvas. You'll see it sort of disappearing there. And I'm going to go to scene 2. Again, you'll see that it's already animating out of the way, even if I don't have it here. But I kind of want it to be in a specific part of this scene, so I'm going to go and add that in. And I guess the thing that you probably may have intuited already is that it's much easier to do this first and get all the stuff that you want in that scene and duplicate it and rearrange stuff than add it manually, but both are possible. So now that I've got this here, I keep moving between scenes without really meaning to, but that's okay. So we've got our text here. Let's just move this down. Probably make that a little bit smaller because I want a little bit of, or potentially make the banner bigger, but either. We could tweak that. But again, I'm not being too precious about this because this is just the demo. But the great thing about this now is that we can move between these scenes and those things will pop up. And again, maybe we can make this duration shorter. I think maybe 400 milliseconds might be the way to go. We can click that, and we can click this. And the great thing about this is that the computer, the plugin, is doing all of the joyful calculations for us. So that's one way to use this plugin. And I think that in itself is really cool. And that kind of powers nearly everything I do on this show. There are some more sophisticated things that I do on Learn Live Streaming Live and the video and live streaming show previously. So that's one way of working with this Move plugin. But I guess another one that is really cool, and I think what we'll do, I was gonna create a new thing, but I don't think I'm gonna bother today. I'm just gonna move this back to fade. And again, if you wanted to, the other thing you can do too is that we can actually set up scene transition overrides. So maybe every time we go to scene 2, like everything's by default, it's currently a fade. But if I wanted to do an override, I could do this as move. So now if I go from scene 1 to scene 3, it's just a simple fade. But if I go from scene to scene 2, it should work. It's not going to. Just to make a liar out of me. There we go. Let me try that again. All right. I think the problem that we figured out last time is that I've got the transition table plugin installed, and that'll give me the ability to do a sort of a proxy version. So if I go from any scene to scene 2, then we could maybe make that a move transition. So I could do it like that. And now if I go here, no, even that's going to make a liar out of me. All right. Isn't doing things live joyful, but conceptually that should work. Again, you know, I think I need to get rid of the transition table. I might even need to, okay, there we go. So that stuff disappeared. So I didn't press the set button. All right, let me try this again. So I've got to actually set this, and then it shows up as part of the table. There we go. So now if I go from scene to scene 3, it's just a fade. But if I go from scene to scene 2, it's still not working. What's it doing to me? I don't still have that override on, because maybe that's... Okay, I'll go none. Joyful, joyful, joyful. So from any to scene 2 is cut. Okay. I didn't want it to be cut. Let's try that again. We'll go any to scene 2 is move. Set. There we go. Okay. So now, theoretically, if I press this scene 2, okay, that worked there. And everything else is going to be the default, which in this case is fade. But if I go back to scene 2, it will rearrange things. So you don't have to use the same scene transition on everything. So just keep that in mind. But what I might do, let's actually just delete our... in fact, let's not delete things. Let's just work with what we've already got, because, you know, we don't have a lot of time today. The other thing that we can do, which is potentially quite fun, is that we can actually animate other properties. So if I go into the banner, and Seed's blowing my mind with science over here, Seed writes, fun fact, you can create multiple move transitions, maybe a slower and a faster one, name them accordingly. Boom. Yes, absolutely. So in that same way, if you just keep going to ads and then selecting the move option, and again, give that a more meaningful name than the default that I'm inclined to leave this on. So that's a really great point. Thank you for that, Seed. All right, so what we're going to do, we can also animate other properties on individual sources and scenes. So let's, I'm going to right click on my show topic, and I'm going to go to filters. I have set up a few other plugins on here. One of them is, let me see if I can remember what it's called. I think it was called Shader-tastic Filter. I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm looking for. No, I don't think that is the one I'm looking for. So that actually does give me a few different effects, but that's not what I'm looking for today. What I'm actually looking for today is called 3D Effect, funnily enough, at the top of my list. So I'm going to have my 3D effect here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually create a few move And really all I'm doing here is just saying, make this available to me. And now I'm going to go to add another filter, and this one will be add move source. And I'm going to call this one animate topic 1. Okay, it's not move source. Let me try that again. Move value is what I want. Yep, move value. I'm pretty sure animate topic 1. There we go, brilliant. Okay, so now it's asking us what we want to actually change. So in this case, we want to adjust the 3D effect filter. And we have the ability to change a single setting or multiple settings. In this case, I'm going to go with settings, in duplicate. I can grab the values of this as is. In this case, I haven't really changed any, so that's fine. But I might go through the action of doing that anyway. What I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate the animate topic 1, and I'll call it animate topic 2. And it's pretty much identical, but what I want to do is I want to actually come down to these rotation effects, and I'm going to just bring these up as large as they will go. And I'm actually going to duplicate this one more time and go animate topic 3. So the other great thing about these move actions and values and sources is that we have a whole bunch of different properties. We could adjust the scaling if we wanted to. We can adjust the custom duration, which I might come back to in a second. But we also have the ability to sort of tell this to trigger other things. So in this case, what I want to do is once animate topic 1 is done, I want to go to animate topic 2. And then when animate topic 2 is done, and I have to be really careful because it's surprisingly easy to accidentally click into any of these values and move my mouse cursor and for those values to be set. But in this case, animate topic 2, once it's done, I want it to go to 3. And then once 3 is done, I basically just want it to stop. So I'm not going to tell it to do anything after that. So now this is where this will get interesting. And I probably need to move this dialog out of the way so you can see what's happening. But now if I trigger animate topic 1, you'll see that it rotates. And, you know, it sort of goes through that process. And if you look really carefully and closely, you'll see that these visibility eyes beside each of these actually light up at different times. We could adjust the speed of this. So if we go down, we've got a custom duration. So maybe I could make this 500 milliseconds, and I might even want to do that for a number of these. And again, if I move this slightly out of the way so you can see what's happening on the canvas itself, and let's turn that first one on, and it sort of rotates in that way, which is kind of fun. What I might do is play with some of these other options. So maybe even the scaling. Let's see if we can make this in the middle of this. Let's actually make it bigger. I'm going to try 150% scaling for both X and Y. Let's just see what that looks like. And you'll see that it actually zooms in a little bit. So I don't know if that's a great use of this particular example. In fact, what I might do is go the opposite direction and make it smaller. So let's say maybe 70%. And that actually made it a little bit smaller in the middle of that. Again, I'll play that again. And that's really quite fun. And you can sort of do a lot of these things. You can do these in conjunction with each other. You can play with all of the different settings. And these, you know, these will vary from plugin to plugin. So the point is, if we can actually bring something in here, we can totally do that. All right, hello to Full Blast, who writes, "Hi John, made it. So great to have your company today. We're checking out the Move plugin, which is a fun little thing that we've been playing with. And again, this is a plugin that you can download from obsproject.com. You can use it as a transition. So if I click between scenes and I've set this as sort of an override, you'll see that it'll actually rearrange the elements within our scene. But the other thing that we've been playing with here is the ability to actually have different effects and sort of, play with those options as well. So I've set up a number of filters here. If I click on this series, it'll sort of rotate that. And that can be really, really fun. I guess the thing that you may be wondering if you're watching from home is, do we need to have this filters option open to trigger this? And the answer is no. What we can do alternatively is we can go to our settings, go to the file menu and then settings and go to our hotkeys. And we need to find our magical setting for this one. And I think I'm going to go animate because I'm thinking, yeah, okay, cool. All right, so if here we've got show animate topic 1. And even though we've got the 3 filters, we really only need to trigger the first one for this to happen. So if I go, I don't know, Control Shift M, for example, and I go apply. And now if I hit Control Shift M on my keyboard, that animation will happen in real time. Oh, Stefan writes, "You may start a movement here." Yes, absolutely. And Full Blast is saying cool. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of stuff we can do with this. And I know some of this may feel like it's quite novel and maybe I have a funny relationship with that sort of stuff. Like, I'm not usually here for the special effects, but they can definitely be fun. The other thing that we could potentially do, and hello to Churrito, who's joining us as well, great to have your company, is that we can actually, if you have a Stream Deck, and I always get so scared when I try to do this, but I'm going to try and do it and just hope that my cords don't come out. But if you've got a Stream Deck, sort of a magical device with buttons, this is the extra large. I do also have the original sort of 6-button mini version as well. But if you have one of those, we can also set up some keyboard, well, they're not even keyboard shortcuts. They're physical buttons on these devices. So let me just bring up the software. And again, I can't really show you exactly how this works because I'm working with a second version of OBS. But let me just show you conceptually how this works. So what we can do is we can find our OBS Studio options here. And if you don't have these, you can just head over to the Elgato Marketplace and find that, install the plugin. It's absolutely free. But essentially what you want to do is you want to grab the filter, drag the button over here, and give this a title and say animate. We want to choose our source. And again, this isn't relating to the version of OBS you can see. It's actually relating to the one behind it. But essentially, if we go here, we can sort of grab our source. And that way, whenever you press that button, that action will happen in OBS. So you need to be a little bit careful. And I just want to say, I am so excited that our good friend Tech Troublemaker is in the chat. Because part of the reason I wanted to do this is because of something I said to him. So we'll come back to that in a second. He writes Dancing Bear. So I guess that's the novelty aspect of this. But we'll come back to that in a second. Sade writes, "I use this for moving in agenda talking points for my trainings." Yes, that's a brilliant use case for that as well. But the reason I kind of wanted to do this show today, and I'm going to create I was going to say I create a new scene. I might just duplicate this one. Let's duplicate this scene, and we'll call it screen share. And I'm not going to need a lot of the stuff that's on here, so I can get rid of my my show topic. In fact, I'm just going to hide it for the moment. I don't care. I don't need my banner. I don't need my text. Yep, that's great. So often you'll be in a situation where you want to do some screen share, and I have to use the standard disclaimer that every single one of my screens is actually in use for this particular show. So I'm probably going to have to pretend a little bit, but I'm going to grab in an image instead. And we're going to pretend this is our fake screen share. I mean, I could share the clock with you, but that's kind of boring. So let me just find something really quickly that might look a little bit like a screen share so we can pretend. Oh, so many things on my computer. It's kind of ridiculous. And I don't know that I actually even have a good screen share. Let me just see if I've got something in here. All right. I'm going to throw in, not that. Let's just throw this in. So this is just a screenshot of the Stream Deck software. So let's go with that. So what we might want to do, and again, I don't know if this button works, but let's find out together. Like and subscribe, as Roy and the chatbot are telling you to do. That would be appreciated. So what we might do, let's bring in my camera. Let's bring it up the top. It'll cover everything. I don't really want it to cover everything. So again, normally I would use my green screen magic here, but most of you probably don't have access to that. So we're going to do something else instead. I'm going to actually come up here and I'm going to create a filter. And this is an effect filter. And I'm going to use my advanced mask. And click OK. And it's put me in a little rectangle. I probably would prefer a circle. And that is unusually centered for me. That's quite bizarre. So anyway, I've got my circle here. What I want to do, I'm going to resize this. And what I want to do is I really want to think about where this might go, because, you know, often I will see people screen sharing and they'll be like, oh, my head's in the way. I've got to drag and move myself around, which is fine. But I think what would be really cool is if we could actually set up some filters to move this around for us. So if we right click on the scene, and this is a little bit different to what we did, we're not actually going to be working with the source. We're going to actually be working from the scene. Right click on this one, go to filters, and we're going to go to move source, and I'm going to say camera, top right. All right, so I need to make sure I select my color, my source here, which in this case is the camera. I can move this around, and basically it's already in the place I want it. So what I'll do is I'll go down to where it says transform and I'll say get transform. And again, there are all kinds of additional settings here you could play with. You could change the visibility, you could change the order. So if you want something on top or underneath, that can be really useful as well. I'm not going to worry about any of that. I'm going to do that a few more times, and let's just go to move source, and I'll say camera top left. Again, make sure the source is the right one. So we'll go camera. Here, I'm going to actually physically click on this, holding the shift key, and I'm just pressing towards the left. And again, you could do this, you know, you could actually do this in pixels and stuff, but that's fine for my purposes today. Again, I'm going to get this transform because that's the information. This is the big string that's just saying where this is, what size it is, and how wonderful it is. Maybe not the last one. And let's just keep going. Let's do this. So camera bottom left. And again, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have this on top of here all the time, but it's just because I'm demonstrating it here. So I'll move this out of the way. Again, just make sure we've got our camera selected. I'm going to hit a shift and down. And again, we could actually resize this. We could crop this a little bit because there's a fair bit of space either end of me as well. So let's just make sure we're going to the camera. We're going to get transform. And one last time, move source, and we will go camera bottom right. And again, I'm going to actually just move this to another screen because you don't really need to see this right now, but let's just make sure we've got a camera selected. Let's move this over to where we want it. So about there. And I'll bring back my dialog box so you can see what I'm working with. Again, make sure we're always on the right source because this can be a little bit weird. And get transform. So the great thing about this now is that if I click on any of these, it's going to move me into position wherever I want to be. And you could actually animate these so it just keeps going from one corner to another, which I think would probably be a little bit annoying, but it is something you can do. And again, I kind of issued this challenge to Roy, and he's responding to it. And I'm not picking on Roy or Ecamm or anything, but Roy writes, yes, Ecamm doesn't have this option yet with Stream Deck. I had to create 2 scenes, but Ecamm does make it look like the camera moved. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you don't have a Move plugin equivalent, the other way of doing this is just to create different scenes and switch between them, and that can work well too. The thing that kind of blew my mind when I started using this plugin was how many less scenes I could work with, because I could just rearrange stuff on the fly within the one scene. And especially, like, if you guys have been here long enough to have seen the video and live streaming show that I did with Sam Proof, 90% of that show was one single scene, and I'd have the 2 cameras, and we would just resize them and remove them around. And I will give you a version of that in a second to show you how that works. But that's great. So, I mean, what I might do, just to show you that it's possible, even though I don't know that's necessarily a good idea, let's go from top right to top left, and then top left to camera bottom left, and then to right. Again, I don't think this is a particularly great use of this, but you can animate this as well. So we could go here, and it'll move us around. And we could adjust the speed. But the big thing is the plugin, your computer is doing all the math. It's doing all the calculations. You don't need to obsess over any of that stuff. And the other thing that we could do too is, like, we could literally just have another one that's like move source again. And we'll just say center. I don't know why I'm spelling out American, but that's okay. We could do that. And I could probably just right click in here and go reset transform. And again, I could even potentially add that as part of my animation chain. So we can go, next move is center, and then I can trigger these things. So I go from corner to corner, and I obviously didn't do that correctly because it didn't center. So let me just double check what happened there. Next move is center. Okay. I didn't click the get transform. That's what happened. Let me try that again. So I'm going to reset the transform to just make it full and centered. And then I'm going to go get transform, and we'll try this again. So there we go. So we can do a lot. We can do a lot of stuff with this. You know, even the thing that Saeed said about the moving the agenda onto the screen, that can be really, really cool and relatively easy. Let's see what Saeed has to say, because he's got something to share with the group. Saeed writes, I always go super geeky with the move feature. I created a scene with my camera, add the filters for different positions to that scene, and then add it as a nested scene to the scenes where I need it. Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about that. I'm going to create, and this is essentially what the video and live streaming show was built around. So I've got a thing called, it's actually called tabs, because originally I had a tabbed interface, which is sort of neither here nor there. But what I want to do is create a new thing, and I will say host scene, and I will say guest scene. And this is the place at which I would add my camera. And because I am the host and I'm here, let's do that. Let's go into our video capture device. Let's go at existing. I might need to turn off my filter for the advanced mask. But that's me, essentially. And over here in my guest scene, I have my guest. I don't really have a guest to demonstrate this with, although I keep threatening to get somebody on to do this in real time, but it's a little bit dicey, because you can share URLs with people on the stream, and they can crash your stream, which can be and I say crash, I mean visit. So let's pretend that this red screen is my guest. I'll add some text in just to make this a little bit more obvious. We'll say text, and I'll say guest. And let's center that in the middle of the screen. Go to transform and we'll go center to the screen, which is apparently Control D. So I might do that on the keyboard. No joy there. Let's try that again. Center to screen. Oh, gotta make sure I've actually got the right thing selected. It's a little hard because the the bounding box of this is also red, so that's a little hard. But essentially, what you'd do in the real world is you'd have something like Video Ninja or Ping.gg, and you would literally get an embed code for your guest, and you'd come in here and you could go to the browser, and you'd say, you know, guest feed. And you'd paste in this URL. You'd probably make sure that the width and the height were actually 1920 by 1080. You could also bring in the audio as well. And, you know, they would be here. And that way you've got them here. The great thing about that is you can actually, setting these up as separate scenes, is you can also add the source record plugin and record versions of these separately, which is really cool. But let's just imagine this tabs is scene is where the magic happens. So what we want to do, we want to actually bring in our other scenes. So I will bring in my existing scene and I will say host. And I will do that again for my guest. Okay, cool. And at the moment, you know, we can't see ourselves side by side. So let's resize that a little bit. And, you know, you could probably... I've done the math on this in the past, so I'm not going to dwell on this too much at the moment. But I mean, the other thing you can do too, if you want to be more granular in terms of resizing this stuff, is that you can resize it in the edit transform. So if you right click on that source and go in there and figure out what this needs to be. So 1920 divided by 2. Let's do some math with a calculator because I don't want to do this live. 1920 divided by 2 is 960. Okay. So we're pretty close. I was there. I'm hoping those things are proportional, but again, for today's purposes, it probably doesn't matter too much. And let's do the same sort of thing with the host. I'm just going 960. Okay, that's definitely not proportional. I can see. So let's just quickly figure out what 1080 divided by 2 is 540. So let's plug that value in there as well. It's always fun when you're working with math. And then we've got those side by side. So we could probably center those on the screen. We could do whatever we want here. But let's just eyeball it for the moment because I don't really have the... In fact, I probably need to go and fix this one as well because I didn't adjust this version of it. So 540, I think, was the number we arrived at. All right, so we've got those there. And again, if you're doing this for real, you'd probably spend a bit of time finessing this, but let's not dwell on that right now. But the thing about this is now that we've got our tabs here side by side, yay math, as Roy points out, we can go to the scenes, we can actually go here and go to the filters, and we can create movements, essentially, so move source. So what I can say is, you know, maybe I want to... feature the host. And probably, in fact, what I will do, and again, a lot of these, you probably will need to do these in steps, so it's a good idea to have numbers. So I'll go feature host. So what I'll do is I will come in here. I will actually grab the guest scene, because what I want to do is I want to make them full screen. So I'll just go reset transform. And I'm going to duplicate this and we'll say feature host 2. So for the first one, I'm adjusting the guest scene. For the second one, I want to actually adjust the host scene. And I will go and I will reset the transform. So now I've got the guest and the host full screen, but one of them isn't on top of the other, and it's not necessarily what we want. And this is, I guess, the other thing too, and I have the weirdest feeling I didn't actually press the get transform previously, so let me just do that. If I haven't, there we go. Cool. All right, so we do have some other options in here. So we've got the transform, but we've also got things like visibility and order. So if I want to change the order, I will say end absolute. And this is the part at which we will learn together how this ordering works, because it's been so long since I've done it, but I'm going to imagine that 0 is the top of my layer stack. So let's actually click on this and see what happens. Although the other thing I got to do too is actually set up those next actions. So on the next action, I want to go to that one. And now if I click this button, okay, that obviously didn't change the order. In fact, I think what I probably need to do is -1. No, hang on. 0. No change on that one. Make sure I'm on the right one. That always helps. So what I want to do is end absolute, and I will say -1 here. I just want to make sure I'm definitely on the host scene. Okay. And there's a little bit of lag there. I'd probably think about maybe removing the custom duration and just tell it to go as fast as it can, or potentially change that thing. But essentially, all we've done is we've resized those boxes. And we've put one on top of the other. The important thing to keep in mind is that the guest audio is probably still in this scene. So just let them know, even if they're not visible on the show, that we can still hear them. And there probably are things you can do in terms of maybe turning off the visibility if you really wanted them to not be part of that particular section. But once we've done that, again, I should have done this earlier, but obviously I didn't. So now we're just going to have to do it again manually. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to go to my transform. And I know I realize this sounds like so much work. But once you've set these up, you'll never need to worry about them again. So 540, and our next sum was, and I should really put these in the chat because I'm never going to remember. It was 960, I think. Yep. Okay. So we've got that there. Again, we could decide where we wanted that as well, but I will go filter. No, not yet. We'll come back to that. We'll just transform it first. So 960 and 540 and bring it here. And again, in a perfect world, you would line these up perfectly, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. So going back to our tabs scene, we're going to right click on that and go to filters, and we'll just do another one that says move source, and we'll say side by side 1. And what we want to do is I'll grab the guest scene first, make sure that's selected. I'll say get transform, and we'll do the same thing over here. We'll add another filter. This one will be a move source. We'll say side by side, if I can type, which is always a thing. This time we want the guest. Again, I'll just make sure I've selected the guest. Over here, get transform. And what I want to do is just want to make sure that this is part of the same action. So I can either do these at the same time, which is the simultaneous, or the next. I will actually do it the next because I think that's kind of elegant. But now, if I press on my feature host, and again, I'm probably going to need to think quite carefully about that because we need to adjust the layering of that, so the order. So in this case, because this is the guest, what I might even do, I might even just go end absolute 1. Let's try that. Okay. I've obviously stuffed something up here, but don't worry about that too much. What I will do is we'll demonstrate the side by side, and the great thing about that is that we're side by side. So I just want to make sure, and there are all kinds of things, and I guess the thing about this, and I probably need to, there's a couple of things I've been thinking about. Let me know if any of this sounds of interest to you. I do have my scene collection that has what was the video and live streaming show, and I also use it for Learn Live Streaming Live, that actually has this kind of arrangements and all the filters built into it. And a part of me is thinking I should probably make that available like on the Elgato Marketplace, because I think this kind of stuff, you really only need to set it up once, but frankly, if you don't need to set it up, if you could have somebody else set it up for you, that might be a really useful thing to do. Because then you won't make all those mistakes, and the layering in particular is something to be really super mindful of. But essentially, we can do that. So there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with this plugin. I feel like I barely scratched the surface. There are other filter options as well that I don't even play with. So we've got the move action, we've got the move source swap, and the move value as well. Move video capture device. I don't even know what that is. I mean, I'm assuming it's just to move the video capture device, but that's about it. Move transition override. All kinds of stuff. So I guess, you know, if we do play with these, and if I do, what did I say that magical keyboard shortcut was? I've already forgotten. Settings. Our hot animate. So Control-Shift-M. So there we go. I could do something like this and go, hi, welcome to today's show. We're talking all about the Move plugin and how it can do amazing fun things for you in the background. So we can do all kinds of things with it. And again, I know this is probably one of the more advanced things I covered on this show, and I don't want you to freak out about it. Definitely have a play with it if you want. Even if you want to create a new scene collection, play with it somewhere that doesn't affect anything you've already created, or even a portable version if you're so inclined. But this is really super fun, and it can do all kinds of amazing things. And I was going to say it can do some things Ecamm currently can't. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, that's really all I wanted to show you today. I hope that's been helpful. Don't forget that you can actually find this plugin over on obsproject.com, and the great thing about this is it is completely free. It's by Xultro. He makes amazing, cool stuff here, and he's got other things like 3D Effect, which is again one of the other plugins that I was playing with today. The Source Copy, which is super useful. Source Record, I use all the time. I haven't dabbled in Record Rename yet. I don't know that I need that, and even Draw, which is a little crude, but I think it can work pretty well. If you just want to sort of highlight things and do that. This is a big thing, and I feel like I'm really bad at this. You know, in these live shows, is that naming the filters properly is really, really helpful. And again, because some of those animations will require several parts and sequences, I think putting some numbers on the end of those filters is really, really important. And, you know, your future self will thank your past self if you actually spend the time to set that stuff up properly. It really will. All right. Well, thank you for your company this week. I hope there's been something useful in there. Hey, to Jesse, who's saying thanks for the tips. No worries. So we can play with all of the things. And again, I've barely scratched the surface. You can find more content about this, obviously, on YouTube. And especially when you start using it in conjunction with other plugins and animating some of those properties, it can be really cool. We can even animate the typing of text into a text box. We can do all kinds of stuff that I haven't really had time to show you this week. But maybe we'll revisit this in the future and have a bit of a play. Because I think it is really fun. And getting back to a previous show, in terms of video creation, we have the ability to record things and edit them together in a complete video package, or we can do a lot of this stuff live. And I think little flourishes, like a little bit of a strategically placed animation, can really just make everything seem a little bit more professional. But anyway, have a great week. Thank you, Full Blast, for saying thanks as well. I will talk to you again very, very soon. Don't forget, next week, I'm sort of alternating my live shows in 2025. So we'll be doing Learn Live Streaming Live. Haven't quite decided on the topic for that one yet. So if there's something you're interested in, let me know. But otherwise, have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there. And I will talk to you again very, very soon.